everybody, it's Miss Lahosky here today, and I'll be talking to you about area of a circle. Now, before we begin, it's important that we lay down some foundational understanding to help us determine what the area of a circle is. When we look at a circle, we need to know two very important vocabulary words. One is the radius. Your radius is the distance from the center of a circle outward. So I can start from any point from the center of the circle and walk outward, and that would tell me the distance of the radius. That is the distance from the center of the circle outward. Now, one way that I help myself remember this is a visual cue. And if I connect the radius from the center of the circle outward, and I can create the letter R. Okay? So that's a visual technique that helps me remember radius. Now, coupled with radius is what's known as diameter. Diameter, it goes straight across the circle through the center. So I would actually start from one end of the circle, go to the middle, meeting the radius, and go completely to the other end of the circle. Going from one end of the circle to the other, going directly across. That's known as the definition of diameter. One way that helps me remember diameter is if I go straight across the center of a circle and then I connect those two lines, it forms a sideways letter D. I can do the same thing with this type of circle and go directly to the center of this circle and then connect my two lines and make that letter D. So that's a good way to help me remember diameter. When we are thinking about area of a circle, we need to have these foundational words of radius and diameter in our math vocabulary, because without these, it's going to be very hard for us to determine what values to use in our formulas. So speaking of formula, let's talk about what an area of a circle is. The area of a circle formula is A equals pi r squared. This stands for your area equals pi, which is your times your radius squared. Now, the definition of the area of a circle is the number of square units inside of that circle. But if we want to break down that mathematic vocabulary into something more understandable, we can just think about area is what fills in that area inside of a circle. For instance, if I was to plant some grass on my circular lawn, I would have to plant seeds throughout the whole entire lawn, the area of the lawn, and that would help me cover the area of that space. Now that we have our basics with radius, diameter, and the definition of area, it's time for us to start a practice question. Now, often you may be given a circle, and it'll tell you that the radius is 12 inches. Now, using the information that I have based on my formula, I'm going to rewrite my formula. A equals pi r squared. And using this formula, it's really going to be my guide to help plug in further information that I have. So I'm going to rewrite it, A equals, because that's what we're solving for. I'm going to continue to write pi, and then my radius. So if I look back to my model and I wasn't quite sure, I would see that my radius starts from the center of the circle to at the outer edge. So my radius of this circle is 12. So I'm going to write A equals pi 12 squared. Now, this next step is very important because it involves order of operations. It would be considered incorrect on my calculator to type in pi times 12 squared. That would not give me the correct answer. But because of order of operations, we have to solve our exponent first. So if you look at my calculator, I'll show you what button to help figure out what your exponent is. What I'm going to do is I want to know the square root of 12, essentially what 12 times 12 is. So I'm going to hit 12, and then this icon here, which is x squared, and then the equal sign. That gives me an answer of 144. I'll go back into my formula and write 144, bring down my pi sign, and my A equals. Always rewriting my formula to help me keep track of my work. My final step is to write area equals. And then on my calculator, I will hit pi times 144 equals. This is going to give me a large number, 452.38. I'll write that down here, 452.38. Now generally when we're talking about area, we're rounding to the nearest tenth. So I'll look at this number here. Because the number in my tens place is followed by 8, I will be rounding on my answer to 452.4. The reason I rounded up is because this number here, 8, is greater than 5, which will impact the number in my tens place. A equals, so my area is 452.4, and since I have a unit, I'm definitely going to make sure I include inches squared on my answer. We should, if you're given a value of measurement, such as inches in your radius or diameter, you should be including that in your final answer. Now, we did a great job with the model question, but sometimes we're not just given our radius. Sometimes we have to figure it out. And in that circumstance, it's when we're given just the diameter. So say for instance, I have my circle, and I'm given a diameter. If we remember, that's our D, that's all the way across, a diameter of, let's say, 6 inches. Well, I'm just going to follow my steps as best I can as a mathematician. A equals pi r squared is always my formula. I'll rewrite my formula, A equals pi. Now, if my diameter is 6, that means it takes me 6 steps to walk across the entire field. How many steps would it take for me to walk only halfway across the field, which would give me my radius? Well, half of 6 is 3. So my radius is 3. I'll write down 3 and then put the squared because it's 3 squared. So now, as I mentioned, because of order of operations, you have to do your exponents first. So I'm going to hit 3 squared, and that gives me 9. Bring down my pi sign, rewrite my formula. And my last step, A equals, I multiply pi times 9. That's going to give me the answer of 28.27. And remember, we're rounding our tens place, so I'll be rewriting that as A equals 28.3. I rounded my tens place up because it was followed by a number greater than 5. My answer is area equals 28.3 inches squared. Now, as mathematicians, if we continue to follow our formula of plugging into area, A equals pi r squared, and understand the difference between radius and diameter, we have the key foundations to solving area questions accurately. Please view my circumference video tutorial if you have not done so yet. And if you have any questions, please see myself or Ms. Almeida in the school building for some extra help. Thank you very much, and good luck with some math. Take care.